So as I've been driving the E90 around town, I've been noticing a louder than normal clunk when I hit bumps. And so I jacked it up and I inspected things and I determined that the bushings on the lower control arms in the front are a little bit worn. They're not completely gone, but they're worn enough that it's making noise, so it's time to replace them. And I'm gonna show you how to do that in this video, so let's get started. So these are the new parts we're gonna be throwing on the car. On my particular vehicle, only one of these bushings is bad, and I actually can't remember which one it is at this point, but it really doesn't matter because, you know, on your car, all the bushings are gonna be of the same age. The rubber is gonna be of the same age, and when one goes, the others are gonna go soon after that. So you might as well just do them all at the same time, you know? That's why they sell this as a kit. So this is about a $300 kit, and it just makes sense. While we're down there, you might as well do it all. So that's what we're doing. These are some of the tools you're gonna need to do this job. You're gonna need a 21 mil and an 18 millimeter wrench and sockets. Ultimately, you could probably do the whole job with just these two wrenches and a hammer, maybe a pry bar. But it does help to have a combination of wrenches and sockets. You know, it's definitely helpful to have an electric ratchet that just makes things go faster, but you know, you ultimately don't really need it. Some extensions will be useful, and if you really want to torque things down properly, you need a torque wrench that can do 50 foot-pounds and one that can do 129 foot-pounds. Or just use a breaker bar to kind of just crank things down with all your might, and you will be more than good. All right, so first I want to show you how I figured out which suspension member was wrong. You know, you just kind of get a pry bar in here, and you kind of pry in between some metal if you can. So you know, anything you can use to kind of move the metal. You can see how this one's good. This one's not moving all that much. It's pretty strong. Another way would be some big channel lock pliers, whatever you got. You can just kind of grab and pull and pry and press like that. See, these ones are good here. That's about the movement you want to see. I can see that the rubber is getting a little cracked here, but it's still okay. All right, but now let's take a look at this suspension member. This is the larger one that is in the kit. And let's go ahead and try to grab this. See the kind of movement we got there? That movement is actually, see that right there? It's even more of a demonstration. This movement is way too much. This is actually what's causing this clunking, because this one takes most of the forces, I believe, here, most of the sort of back and forth forces. So that movement is a little bit too excessive, at least for me. And yeah, that's the reason we're getting that clunking sound, or at least I'm getting that clunking sound. So well, that's why we're doing this. Well, we got to start somewhere. Might as well be right here. See if this is long enough to get on there. Okay, we got to break that loose with something a little longer. So I think I'm going to go old school today and just use my breaker bar. This is the time for it. That was pretty cool. That's I'm wondering if that, no, that didn't, I don't know. The unscrewing of that kind of helped pop the ball joint loose. I was thinking that wasn't attached, but I think maybe the rivets on here kind of embedded that washer kind of into the metal a little bit and gave it some force to help drive that through and pop it free. That's kind of cool. Wasn't expecting that. But that's so much the better, because I was checking this out before I did this, and I was looking like my ball joint tool, my ball joint popper, is not big enough to pop that particular ball joint. When this was fully all the way through, even though this is on the largest setting, I don't think that would have been, maybe it would have been if I backed this out like all the way, and this was all the way down. Would that have fit? Possibly. We'll see if we need it on the other one. I think we would get in from the back side. Yeah, I don't know. I think even on that back one, it looks like it's a little too tall for the back one. So let's hope that same thing happens when we drive that back one out of there. So on the other side, there is an 18 millimeter bolt, and there's a captive nut on the other side. It's a square nut, so I don't think we'll have to counter hold it. And we might as well use the breaker bar to kind of get that off. Probably didn't need to. Okay, I think we're out. Great. Yeah, and there we are. So I hope it goes without saying that you want to match your parts up, make sure you're using the right part. You'll know you've got the wrong one because when you try to do that on that one, see it's pointing the other way. So make sure you got the right one. So like I was saying, I'm catching this problem pretty early. Starting to see the rubber coming away from the sides of the walls right here. So as we kind of move it, I can see that it's pulling away a little bit. And the same thing up here on this other side. So it's not really bad, but it's getting there. Also, I know it looks like there's some fluid leaking out of these, but I don't think these are fluid filled. I think that's just some power steering fluid that's been dripping down right there. So we have to thank this week's sponsor, which is OEMBimmerParts.com. They've been a long-time sponsor of my channel, and for good reason. I really love these guys. I love their website. It's really well categorized. They have fast 2-day shipping because they have multiple warehouses across the country, so they're going to get your parts to you really quickly. Like I said, the website is very well categorized. It's just the most popular repair parts that you're going to need for all the late model BMWs. It's easy to find things. It's you know, they always stock the stuff that you really need, and they do offer some. It's mostly the OEM parts, but they do offer some aftermarket parts, but quality aftermarket parts. So you don't need to worry about what you're getting. It's usually one OEM option and one aftermarket option if you want to go that route. So I really love these guys. I would appreciate it if you would check them out. That's OEMBimmerParts.com. All right. So we just go right back in like this. Slip that guy in. There we go. So if you really want to, you can change these lock nuts, you know, because it is like a little nylon insert that does the locking, but it's not going to be necessary. I think you can put these back on at least one time. I'm going to anyway. Your new ones don't come with them. I've got the Lemforder brand here, and no, they never come with new bolts. So I've got it tight, but I'm not going to tighten it right now. I'm going to leave it loose. And the reason we do that is because the suspension has to be under load when you actually tighten this down. Right now, the suspension is hanging down, right? So if we tightened it down right now, once we put the car on the ground, it'll actually put this rubber bushing under tension, and it'll always be under tension all the time, and you don't want that. You want it to not be under tension when it's sitting flat on the ground, and it'll only go into tension when you go over a bump, and then, you know, it'll come back to the normal position. So we need to have the tire sitting at the normal ride height before we actually tighten this particular bolt down. This one, however, this is just an articulating ball joint. It doesn't matter. You can tighten this one right now. So I'm going to do that. So we may or may not get a situation where the inner ball joint is going to start spinning when we try to tighten this on. It doesn't always happen. I don't think it's going to happen in this case. Kind of what you want is for tension to be put on that ball joint, because it is a taper. So on that taper joint, once there's a little bit of tension on there, that'll hold it in place. So yeah, we'll just see. Let's see what happens. So it was unnecessary. They do put a Torx head on that bolt, so that is at T40. If you need to do it, you would just use a wrench here, and then you would hold it there with a socket or something. Tighten it up that way. In our case, wasn't necessary. All right, because I'm on camera, I've decided to break out my torque wrench and do this. Just because I know somebody's going to want this. So the torque on this is actually 129 foot-pounds. So we're going to go ahead and tighten it up. I loosened it a little. And there we go. Now, if you have a torque wrench, go ahead and use it. But to be honest with you, just grab your breaker bar and make the thing hella tight, and you're going to be fine. So as I was saying, before you tighten this guy up, you want the tire to be at normal ride height. Now, if you put the tire back on and you put the vehicle on the ground, you might get it at normal ride height, but you're not going to be able to reach underneath and tighten this bolt up, at least not correctly. Especially you're not going to be able to torque it, right? So you don't really have to put the tire on and put the vehicle back on the ground. think about it. If all we have to do is jack this thing up to the point where the whole car starts raising off of the jack stands, that proves to you that the weight of the vehicle is now on that suspension, and the suspension is now at its normal ride height. You're not going to be able to jack the tire up further than the normal ride height because, you know, the vehicle just starts moving up. At that point, the weight of the vehicle is pressing down on the suspension. You know, that's the same thing as the ground pushing up on that suspension. Your floor jack pushing up on it is the same thing. So I hope that I've explained that correctly. Just jack the thing up until you see that it doesn't really move up anymore, and now the whole car is starting to move up. That is the normal ride height. So I can see the whole suspension is moving and going up. And now I can see that the weight has come off of my jack stand just a little bit. If I keep going, the whole car is moving up now. Now we're at the proper position, so I can tighten this thing down. So when it comes to this particular nut, there are two different torque values in the service data. Depends on the grade of this bolt. And I can see that this one is an 8.8. It's written on the face of the bolt. That means that it's 68 Newton meters plus another 90 degrees. So I'm just going to convert that to foot-pounds, and then I'll do the 90. So for 50 foot-pounds, I actually need a different torque wrench. So I mean, if you want to torque things properly, you need so many torque wrenches, man. It's really silly. Okay, so now we're there. So now I need to do another 90-degree turn. And the problem here is that I don't have enough room under the car with, you know, how long my torque wrench is to just get like a clean 90-degree sweep. So I might have to do it in 2 passes. So the easiest way to do that is to just make a mark there and then another one at 90. And then you see when your bolt kind of gets to that point. Oh man. Almost. There. The little mark I made on the nut is finally there. I actually almost made a mistake there. I thought that the washer was one with the bolts, and I thought the washer was going to move, but it didn't. So I'm glad that I happened to get some marker on the bolt. But that's where you should mark it. Mark the head of the bolt right there. Always a good idea. Anyway, that's what you do. Or you can just get your breaker bar and make the thing freaking tight. All right, now we're going to change out this lower member right here, and you'll notice this is a little level sensor for the headlights right here. We got to get that off. Looks like it's clipped in here, so I just need to come over top, probably press this thing in right here. Yeah, and get that off. Yeah, that was easy enough. Okay, so in this particular case, the ball joint is spinning. I can see it from underneath. So I got to do this the hard way with a wrench and put that T40 right in here. Also, an alternative is I can actually probably put some tension with my floor jack underneath this. That'll press it in, and then I could just get it out with the ratchet. But do I have room? That's the issue here. So, you know, you have options. That's what I'm saying. I'm definitely going to try this because it's a lot easier. Ooh, I'm kind of moving you guys around, sorry. Let's see if we can do this. Put some tension. Still see. Much better. Now, hopefully, I did not push my ball joint up and lock it into place. That would kind of suck. I don't think I did. I can kind of feel it moving in there. Cool. 18 mil wrench to hold it right here. And we'll do a socket on this side. See if this guy's long enough. Ooh, slipped out there. Yeah, it's long enough. And there's enough tension there. I didn't even really need to hold it. Kind of hold it until it gets loose, and now it's not holding anymore, and now I need it. We also don't want to wait forever. There we go. This bolt kind of doesn't want to slip past the boot on the steering. Gotta move things around a little. Looks like we're a little stuck in, so get a little pry action going. Boom, there we go. All right, just like on the other side, there is a left and a right, and you can see how this side sticks out here. That's how you'll be able to match up the part. So in this particular case, that side sticks forward. Might need to beat that in a little bit with a hammer. Maybe yeah. Okay, we'll put this back on. Oh, that's the one for the front. Duh. All right. And then put this back up. Cool. So I think I'll do that same thing and kind of jack this up, put some tension on it. That way it'll be easier to tighten. Are we going the right way? Yeah. Well, that worked great. So it's exactly the same thing as the front, 129 foot-pounds or 175 Newton meters. There we go. All right, I was able to clip this thing back on while you guys were out of the way and the camera was off. Sorry about that. The easiest way is to just make sure the top of this clip is on the top of the strut, and then you can kind of push this back in, and I was able to clip it back in with my fingers. You just have to be able to see what you're doing, which I couldn't before. So once again, I'm gonna raise the suspension up exactly like before till I see the weight of the car is off the jack stand. For the sake of efficiency, I probably should have done this on both of these sides at the same time, but I didn't think about it. And literally the same as the front. It's 50 foot-pounds on this one. Actually, I need to just get this tight at first. That might already be too much. No, it wasn't quite there. And there we are. Probably don't even need to counter hold that. Here, let's just use this. Yeah, that's much easier. Let's see, where's the mark? The mark's right there. And that's 90. So that's where I started, and that's where I ended up, right there. Another 90-degree turn. So guys, it is exactly the same on the other side, with the exception of, you know, there's not going to be a level sensor on that side. So otherwise, it's exactly the same. So I'm not going to show it, just because it's a little annoying to kind of work around the camera sometimes. So I'm just going to bang it out. But you know how to do it now. It's that easy, and really, you just you need a couple tools. Honestly, you really don't need to torque things down. Just make them super tight and you're gonna be fine. Use a breaker bar, make it tight, you're gonna be more than fine. You know, at the end of the day, that's not really a hard job. I honestly don't think you need torque wrenches. Just use your breaker bar and tighten those things down really, really good, and you should be fine. Please remember to check out my sponsor if you're interested in picking up a set of these parts for yourself. I'm the 50s Kid. Thanks a lot for watching.